So One Wing 2 is also going to be working off of its own motives more than anything else.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Right? And where One Wing 9 is going to be a bit more tapped into the collective to know what needs reforming. It's going to tap into like the collective issue to know what the problem is.
Sort of the stereotype of one, the word reformer seems to be describing One Wing 2 far more than One Wing 9.
One Wing 2 is like, I will go into the trenches of India and, breastfeed each person.
There you go.
The big hormone enneagram.
Hi, I'm John Lukovich, sexual self-pres 4-5 link, 4-5-8 trifix.
Hi, I'm David Gray, self-pres sexual 9-1, 9-7-4 trifix.
What up, it's Emeka. I'm an 8-7, sexual self-pres with 8-5-4 fixes.
Hi, I'm Nancy. I am a self-pres social 3, wing 4, with a 3-6-9 trifix. If you like our podcast, guys, make sure you go like and subscribe on the Apple Podcast app. And if you really like us, you should definitely leave us a review.
We've typed over close to 150 people so far this year. We've only typed 2 type 1s. So
Wow.
there are not a whole lot of 1 examples, and there are a whole lot of people listening to this pod right now who are mistyping as 1s, because I believe there's a lot of 6 bleeding into the descriptions. I just listened to that interview that Josh did with Alex, which was really good, because she just brought the gutness of 1 into it, and it was really illuminating so much of the inner critic. Even the word inner critic sounds like a 6 word instead of a 1 word.
One thing's more like inner decider or something, or maybe like inner...
It's like physical, like a body sense of... One of the things that was really striking that she said is like remembering how something was always supposed to be, which is like the gut sense of a timeless sense of knowing something that's been that way since the beginning of the universe. And so there's like a sense of remembering the way things are supposed to be, like a sacred sense of alignment or something like that. And it's a very like
alignment in your body.
Yes. And so it's like an immediate sense of, I know what is right here because of the internal, the body sense of alignment. Or she used the word tuning fork, which is a very body guts word.
And you notice it when it's unaligned because it's in your body.
Yeah.
When things are unaligned. Yeah.
And she said something also that the sense that I'm the only one who knows the way it's supposed to be. And so that responsibility that, well, if I'm the only one who knows, then I'm the only one who can really do something about it. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. Just looking at it from a rejection versus a frustration point of view.
And as a contrast to 6, that's a big contrast.
Oh yeah, like there's no like something hanging over her head judging her, like the inner critic, like, oh, you didn't do this right. It's more like immediate sense of this is not aligning with the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I think what you're getting at is that people interpret 1s as like hard on themselves, which they definitely are, but it's not from this externalized voice kind of like beating themselves up, or there's not like the inner critic can sound like, oh, if I do this I'll mess up, and there's not this sense that I'm gonna mess up. It's just, there might be some of that, but it's mostly it's just the burden of having to do what needs to be done.
I heard that mostly as the way that the superego shows up in the body is like physical agony.
Yes.
As like physical frustration, and that was the driving thing to do, the things that need to be done. It wasn't necessarily for some like external voice or for fear of consequence or for fear of like God's wrath or something like that. It was just like, I feel in pain. I have to, and it won't stop until it's done.
Yeah, that's good.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. There was a lot of striking impressions from that interview as a gut type. Just trying to imagine what frustration might feel like as a body type. That sense of I can't go 5 minutes without feeling disgust around something not being in certain alignment, and feeling like I'm the only one who can do something to bring it into alignment, and that sense of pain or agony from feeling like nothing is the way it's supposed to be. And I was like, that's intense. That's very intense.
Yeah, I know. That was so rough. And that put into perspective to me the different ways that the different body types do it. Because like 8 will just like, mow it over, right? Like assertive energy, just physically move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And 9, it was funny listening to that episode because like I've always kind of romanticized 1. And after listening to that, I still romanticize 1, but I know that I don't want to be 1 now because I can just like dissociate from whatever bad thing is happening. Whatever thing that I'm like disgusted with, I can just like, my coping mechanism is to just separate from it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with competency, that's the piece where I've got to do something about this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that gut action gets turned into like, a fixing, doing rigidity. It's like, because if I'm not in like putting my body energy toward improving or fixing or something, then it's like that lack of resonance or that body frustration becomes like overpowering.
When I think of, some of these episodes that we do, there are certain images come to mind, like whatever we're talking about evokes certain images. And there was a image that had gone viral maybe like a month ago that I saw that I felt that came to mind as I was thinking about frustration. It was like some black covered figure that was covered in spikes, and that feeling of like everything is wrong and I'm covered in frustration just feels so prickly. And that if you don't like, you have to do something about it because it's that intensifies. And it seems like of the 3 words, frustration, rejection, and attachment, that it seems like the one that actually fits the most, that you don't have to feel like you need to change that word, because I don't know a better word that describes what's going on other than frustration.
Yeah.
Yeah. Almos, H. Almos, in one of his books, describes how, that the fundamental human suffering is frustration. And on a psychological level, because, like frustration is the infant not getting its needs met, and its nervous system is extremely vulnerable and sensitive and easily overwhelmed, and there's no sense of time and duration that can kind of contextualize frustration from an infant's nervous system. And so, like underneath attachment and underneath rejection is frustration. It's just like frustration is sort of the head-on experience of being frustrated, or maybe you're frustrated with like a secondary thing, but it's still like the affect frustration. And then with attachment, it's like, okay, I'm not getting my needs met, so that's frustration, but I'm going to adapt to say this is good enough. And then likewise, rejection is I'm not getting my needs met, but I'm going to cut off the frustrated part.
Yeah,
so
that fits.
The reason that hell is depicted as like burning is because like the frustration typically has like a sandpaper hot quality in the body. Got this like kind of thing.
Yeah, anguish.
Yeah, anguish. Right. Yeah, yeah. Alexandra and I were talking about 9 versus 4 stuff, and you pointed out that sadness is more like a 9 thing because there's acceptance there, and then like the hot suffering is more 4 because it's resistance. It's not. It's frustrated. It's not okay with what's happening.
Yeah.
So the not okayness is the fundamental human position.
That sort of image of an emo, sad, wispy person, depressed person fits more with 9 because there's some softness in there, like and the 4 version is really internally aggressive and agitated. It's
more bitter.
Yeah,
and allowance for the bitterness or something.
Yeah, it's not chill.
Yeah,
not chill.
Difference with 4 and 1, I think, is that 1 kind of like has like that eternal memory of the other side.
Yeah.
Of that frustration where it could be. It's like if and there's a way in which like even though the 1 is frustrated, there's a way of contextualizing their own frustration so that it's somehow not just like this sucks depression, like hot depression, like raging, whatever. There's some way of framing it that it's got some, it's in service of something, like I think that part of the 1 deal is even though, what I was going to say, part of the one deal is that there's like a certain perception of selflessness. But like they're looking for like what is good, and being a super ego type, there's still this sense of doing something that's not about me alone.
Yeah.
But we can get into like one fixers and ones that use their sense of physical resonance to like actually just justify bullshit and give a reason why their shitty behavior or whatever is like good or okay, or for whatever the benefit or fair or something like that.
Yeah, it'd be like the image of a type 1 villain would be someone who's created a narrative that supposedly benefits everyone or a larger cause of some kind, but is really masking some selfish whatever or selfish sense of what should happen.
Exactly. Yeah. It's your gatekeeping, girl bossing, gaslighters, and
toxic.
We're back to tell you that you're not the type you think you are.
Always.
And we're evil for that. So we've been referencing.
We have no inner critic about it.
No inner critic.
And too bad we can't be canceled because these are all our platforms. Suck it.
In fact, our inner critic is actually our inner cheerleader supporter.
It's just getting worse, people. It's just getting worse.
Loves what we're doing and just gets stronger with every time we find threads on Reddit about how awful of human beings we are.
We just keep feeding. We just keep feeding on your hate and getting stronger every year.
It's an inner critic we have towards you all.
Yeah, that you're wrong.
Yeah.
So just hate us some more so we can grow stronger.
So yeah, to continue our
gatekeeping. Welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
Hate listeners. we know you're here with us right now.
Yeah, all 60% of you are hate listeners.
Jeez.
We were talking about Josh Levine's.
Fine.
God, Josh Levine. Josh has been my friend for forever. I can't pronounce his last name. Josh Levine's amazing podcast, What It's Like to Be You, which is some of the best, I think, material for taking a lot of the kind of concepts that we talk about here, but exploring them through the personal experience of people of those types that are accurately typed. And there's a lot of bullshit out there in terms of content meant to represent type A, B, C, whatever. And Josh has people who are the types they say they are. And, David, Emeka, and I are all on there.
And he's got that social Bermuda magic where he's asking real questions as a real human being who is connecting to another human being, unlike us here. So those interviews are really illuminating from a point of view of someone who's having a real conversation.
Yeah, they're great. Alexandra, what are you doing?
Yes, sir.
Astrology.
Yes, I am continuing to take readings. It's been picking up a little bit. I have next month. Next month is pretty full, actually. So book for October. We are doing, astrology readings where we look at your Enneagram type and how it relates to your chart. There's a lot of direction. There's a lot of mirroring. There's a lot of untangling that everyone needs. You guys have heard my spiel, so I'll leave it at that. Book with me on, if you guys have me on Instagram at I am Alexandra AA is my personal one, or Angry Enneagram 9. I'm more responsive on my personal ones and should check that one more often, so that might be a good idea. And otherwise, if you guys have me on Facebook, reach out there.
She's getting a website going soon.
I am, yeah.
So cool.
Almost done.
Is it going to be astralcq.com?
It is not, no.
Wow.
No, we're still in, I'm still experimenting with different names, but I think I got close to something else.
Disappointed.
I know, I can't. I'm working up to that. I'm working up to my villain stage.
What do you mean, villain stage? Chart queen.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
David.
We're getting there.
Trifix
What are you
booklet?
doing? Yeah.
I'm just I just made this Trifix booklet, and that's the only thing I've done with my life. So,
So buy it. If you want to validate the one thing that David has ever done, you must buy it. If you have any support for this man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
And
one
you have
bit
to
of
purchase.
homework that I did.
And we know a lot of y'all have a lot of support for him, so buy it. Show it monetarily.
Thank you.
And then dark arts and typing.
Yeah, Dark Arts Academy. It's about a year since we've started Dark Arts Academy. We were inspired by the OPS gang and their video pod series to explore typing. People have been asking us to bring people along into what our typing process is, and so it's been really cool. It's just to even illuminating for us, the best way to sort of learn something deeper is to explain it to other people. So we get to hang out and explore these different type concepts as they're happening in real time. And what Dark Arts Academy is able to do is to get experiential practice in learning how to use the instruments and the languages of these concepts, and to see them as they present themselves, and to see like a type three-dimensionally come into place. So it's one thing to say, oh, I think somebody might be a 6 or a 5, but to actually go and break that down and see, all right, if this is 5, then I need to see a rejection, I need to see a head type, I need to see a withdrawn quality, I need to see competency at the same time, and it has to all come together. So it's a great way to learn the Enneagram, and if you're not learning how to use the Enneagram experientially, you won't be able to really apply it. And so join Dark Arts Academy. It's $19 a month at Enneagrammer.com. You also get a discount to our typing services, which, by the way, if you have still experiencing any confusion about your self-typing, the three of us, Joseph, David, and myself, are the best damn typers on the planet. So you can get us to get you some clarity on your typing. We've got a Facebook group also that just provides a lot of free support to explore these distinctions, and you can even get free typings from members of our group. Our average group member is far more knowledgeable than the average Enneagram teacher. So there you go, Enneagrammer.com for DAA and our typing services.
And then lastly, I have a book out, and it's called Instinctual Drives the Enneagram. And I know it's only fucking August, but if you're thinking of gifts for people, I'm trying to figure out a way, in the most lazy, unassertive way I can, to get more people to like know about the book. Like I think that those who know about the book generally buy it and seem to like it a lot. Like, check out the reviews if you're on the fence on Amazon. Leave a review if you can, please. But yeah, how to get it out there. So if anybody has any thoughts about that, you can hit me up through my website at johnlukovich.com. Doing a study group where we're going through section by section, and I thought it was going to be like a quick thing, but it's turned into like a long kind of inner work thing, and we're getting into the background of Enneagram and fourth way, Gurdjieff, all this stuff. It's been really good. So you can sign up. It's like $15 a class, and it's you can, all the classes are recorded, so you can watch the old ones. We're still just on chapter 2, and it's been going since like June or something. So it was just an experiment, and it's been going. I don't, who knows how long I want to keep going on this, but yeah. So I don't know. I want to see like what would get more of a group going, but it's a good group, a good like consistent crowd that comes, and the observations and people's insights and learning how to put into practice a lot of this information.
Yeah.
It's been a good place to do laboratory shit and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's we just did a thing on like, how do you know what your heart is? Was our theme, and that was really interesting.
I would imagine that some people are looking for a way to access the past classes, because maybe it's like, I'm not going to show up to each weekly sessions, but I'd want to see all that stuff in the library. So if they were just available and somebody could go back and watch them, that'd be something worth paying for.
I mean, you can go to my website, and there's a tab for the study group, and then I have all the past meetings. I'm a little slow to update them, but like, they need passwords, and if you just send me be like, hey, give me the password, I'll give it to you, and you can go watch them, and send me $15 for it or whatever for each class. So you can look on the website, see what we've gone through so far, and it's good. So anyway, that's it.
Dope. All right, Wing Queen. People have been begging and crying for more Wings episode, and we've been just telling them, you're just going to have to suffer. Wait.
I like the idea of starting series and then just like people just like abandoning them and just not ever coming back.
Oh yeah, I'm getting a lot of rejection kicks out of it. It's like, yeah, how bad do you want it? How bad? How bad? What are you willing to do for these episodes? How bad are you going to suffer for these?
What we need to do is have like a long break between 5 and 6, because the 6s and 7s are hands down going to be the most impatient.
Oh yeah.
Wait the most.
Make them wait months.
Go insane.
Start off an episode, be like, oh, so today we're going to start getting into the Type 5 Wing. Nope, we're doing something else.
Yeah.
Or when we get to the 6s, we could do a lot of, I'm not really sure about this, but, you know.
And and their heads will all explode.
Yeah.
All right, one Wings.
Yeah, one. I mean, we kind of talked about this already. One's going to be a little bit tough because I don't know about you guys, but I don't have much on the ground kind of experience with ones, and have not been able to like observe ones in their natural habitat enough to really pull much out. So a lot of this is going to be theoretical for me.
Yeah, it's almost like it's weird that we have more firsthand experience with 4 because we have 4-ing 5 and a 4-ing 3 in our lives. But I think we might have like maybe 2 Type 1s that are active members in the group. We've only typed 2 Type 1s total this year out of like almost 150 people. So it's like people complain about, oh, you guys think you're so special because 4 is so rare. It's like there are a bunch of other types that we don't see very often. We don't see 2s very often. We haven't typed a single 2 this year. We haven't typed an 8 yet, you know, and 1s seem to be pretty rare as well. Yep. So, but hopefully we can scrape some insight from the meager experiences that we've had with some 1s and make this useful.
The things are so like unevenly distributed type-wise is fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's so fucking interesting.
Yep.
I don't know what to even make of that. I mean,
says a lot about humanity.
Totally.
Me, Joseph, and David on DAA we've been doing these little spurt videos just talking about general Enneagram typing stuff. And one of the things we were talking about is like, there's a lot of excitement when you start getting to the Enneagram, thinking about the different implications for what these types mean. And one of them is like, what's the distribution of some of these types, and just how disappointing it is once you actually start to see, oh, what I thought about humanity is actually being really reflected in the Enneagram, and that like it's a lot of the same. And you know, the interesting, or the types quote unquote that you think are interesting aren't interesting. We're seeing that like 90% of the people that we type are sexual blind. Not to say that sexual is anything special, because it's not. And over like 80% of the people we type are attachment types, mostly 6s and 9s. And if you think about the people you know in general, those personalities pretty much describe the people you deal with on a regular basis.
It makes sense to me, like on an evolution level, that the 2 types, 6 and 9, that adapt the most and absorb and so forth would be, and cooperate generally, you know, are going to be the most common.
It's an attachment world, and we're just dying in it.
Yep.
It's a 69 world, and we're just... You know, even 3s are pretty rare. Like 7s are way more common than 3s. We've typed, I believe we've typed about 8 3s total this year, and we've got like maybe 14 7s. So it's like it's crazy.
And then the rarity of heart types.
Oh yeah,
itself is interesting. Like, you know, that the heart is the reconciling force between the head and the body, and that, like, you know, and then most, you know, of course, like the vast majority of people's fixes are 3 fixed, which itself has a certain trouble with the heart.
Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. You know, like
it's a cold world.
Cold world.
Yeah. And then the most common trifix with the 2 fix is Stockholm. A lot of, you know, suffering, addicted human beings out there. If they have a 2 fix, that's what the trifix said most likely to show up.
Yeah. So yeah, back to ones. Yeah, I don't know, Alexandra, do you have anything? Because you do your frustration with attachment.
I'm sure you've got a whole spiel ready.
She's
to
got
go.
a whole speech ready for us.
Already.
Cool,
I'm ready.
guys.
I'm waiting to be blown away. I'm just sitting back.
Do the work for us.
Damn, I thought I gave my disclaimer already. I mean, not really. I don't. This is going to be a little tough just because it's been really easy to observe 8s and 9s. So that's kind of where it's all coming from. But yeah, with not much experience with 1s, a lot of this is going to be just like, Enneagram math, basically.
We can do that.
Well, all right. My experience, I've had Mary Cloud, who introduced me to the Enneagram, is a 1-wing 9. And, one of the things really interesting about her and the few encounters of 1-wing 9s I've had in my life is that stereotype of being like really put together and precise and efficient and whatever is not quite as like we would go to Mary's house and we go to her room and it was just covered in clothes and there was this it had this sort of 9-ish quality where we always imagined that Mary would be the type to wake up and birds would help her get dressed in the morning, she's a very kind and gentle person, but underneath that there is this simmering no. Mm-hmm. And there's no adapting. There's like an outer sort of adapting in a superficial is not the right word, but you know what I mean, like periphery kind of outer way of just like okay, and then I can feel Mary, her 1-ish, I guess, rigidity or position. It's not hidden, but it's kind of like it goes into her own atmosphere and it's not as projected outward into the world.
Yeah.
That 9 gives it, it can keep the ideal in the ideal world a bit more instead of turning so quickly into action with the 2 that has to I get a feeling and I need to connect it to the human experience. Like a 1-wing 2 has more of this applies to the human heartfelt experience, and my doing right in the world has to do with also touching your heart in some kind of way. Yeah. Bringing good into the good heart and goodness and love is not being all that separate.
Yeah. Yeah, one with a 9-wing is more abstract, distant, kind of lofty to me, and one with a 2-wing is much more applying the oneness towards what people's everyday lives could look like, something like that. Yeah,
I feel like this contrast is similar to what we might have discussed when we were looking at 8-wing 9 versus 8-wing 7. How 8-wing 9. Yeah. 8-wing 9 is attached to that position of leverage, and so there's more of a sensitivity to it, and the 7-wing pulls the 8 experience of leverage more externally, and like I'm looking for these lever points more exploratorily, and so there's less of attachment to one position, and so it feels like 1-wing 2s are far more assertive from a hexad point of view. Like 2 has to. Because 2 is penetrating. 2 is a rejection type that is looking for sort of like these heart center leverage points, like ways of penetrating and finding ways to hook, and so it feels like 1-wing 2s feel more obligated to manifest that ideal vision out in the world, and so there's more of a seemingly assertive, and also interpersonal quality to 1-wing 2s.
Well, it's interesting because there is an interpersonal, but there's another level where it's also impersonal as a 1-wing 2 because of rejection happening.
Right.
Like I think then 1-wing 2 sees themselves as the mission.
Yes.
And
like your friend Jordan Peterson.
Sorry,
John's favorite.
Yeah, do you think he's
yeah, we decided we were thinking he's a 1 with a 2. I was on 1 with a 9. Yeah. But
his making himself cry. So
there you go. Ding ding ding.
Jordan Peterson.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, I hate Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
But that's a good distinction, like one wing twos being more the mission. Oh, I just remembered the sexual one that my ex, not really an ex, I just dated her for like a few months. I mean, I guess that's an ex, but she was on this pod for the type 1 call. She is a one wing two, I believe, and she's also social blind, and she's got a fashion brand. She's a fashion designer. She's also like an activist for ethical fashion design. And I mean, this is a really big deal. Like, she's really heavily involved in that cause.
The only DJ one in existence.
Yes.
Okay. I was wondering if that's, if I made that up or not.
No, yeah, she's also a DJ.
So funny.
But, you know, the criticism or the critical nature of one seems more overt with one wing two because of the two wing.
Yeah, there's almost like them delivering their one-ishness is almost doing you a benefit or a favor.
Yes, right.
You know, like that's like a good thing with Mary. Like I can feel, I know Mary so well that like I can tell when she's lit, but she's more not going to share it with you unless you probe her about it in a way, like
or invite her to,
Yeah, and because she's a one wing 9, there's attachment thing of wanting the relationship or dynamic to still work in some way. You know, it's not as much going to go roll up my sleeves and fix it in as overt a way.
So, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, my mother was a one with a 2 wing, so been holding back on you guys here. So, like
Mr. Withholder over here.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, she was the person that all of her friends would come to her for counsel. I mean, it was like you had a meeting with my mom. You know what I mean? It's that kind of thing. And also on the like reformer type thing, she moved to Washington, D.C. in the 1950s and worked for a couple of senators, and she was going to, change the world, right? And she's even social blind. And worked for a couple of senators, was a speechwriter and newsletter writer, and eventually got, disillusioned because it was just all the Washington bullshit, right? And then she became a grant writer for different arts groups and things like that. So there was always this mission kind of thing. Yeah.
So it seems that sort of the stereotype of one, the word reformer seems to be describing one wing 2 far more than one wing 9. Similar to how
I agree.
Similar to how like people's impression of what 8 is pretty much describing 8 wing 9, but people don't really have much of a frame of reference for 1 or 8 wing 7. It's interesting that the stereotype of 1 tends to describe 1 wing 2 more, even though it doesn't seem like there are as many 1 wing 2s as we run into 1 wing 9s. Like we see far more 1 wing 9s than we see 1 wing 2s, but it seems like 1 wing 2 fits the stereotype a little bit more.
Yeah, I think 1 wing 2 fits the stereotype more, just because I associate rejection with offerings. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Yes,
but I see. Okay, so for example, Bernie Sanders is 1 wing 2, right? Would you guys think 1 wing 2?
Yes.
Same with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Has that reformer thing, but also with an offering. Like this, like, I know how to fix things, and I also know what's best for you.
Yeah.
And it's got
whereas
more
1 wing
sunniness, too. You know what I mean? There's that, with 1 with a 9, it's just further away. It's not as people-oriented.
Well, I'm also looking at the database right now, and you guys typed for DAA, you typed Sue Johansson, that like sex educator.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That crazy, like
she was
wacky do. She was so fun.
Yeah.
And Meryl Streep as a 1 wing 2.
Yeah.
So they both also have that kind of like rigid but upbeat quality. And I know that 9 is a positive type 2, but we've already talked about how 9 is like the most diffused, kind of like least positive type, where 2 is like a hexad positive. So it's like type. Coming at you. Yeah, exactly.
Like we discussed like the 2 thing of, in what ways a 2 is doing the rejection cutoffness, in the sense that there's there's no two-way adaptation in terms of like what my sandbox of offering is what you need, and you just haven't realized it yet. And the positive type aspect of pride is that I'm going to keep re-seducing you interpersonally with this offering that I have. And if you look at the one wing, it seems like one wing twos are more rigid in the sense of my offering is what the world needs. And if there's more specificity there, perhaps because of that two wing, because twos in general have their specific sandbox, and there's more of like a sunny interpersonal way that they go about trying to show you that you need what they have.
Yeah, it's more of a preacher almost kind of thing. Yeah.
And a two-wing is also... Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, baby.
Well, I was going to say a two-wing is... Oh, damn, now I lost it. Go ahead. It's fine. It'll come back. Shush, just go.
Well, you just lost it. I was going to talk about, on the list, you'll have Noam Chomsky, and I know Noam Chomsky's been like a example of one wing 9 in a lot of circles.
Yeah.
I was actually wondering if y'all think he could be a 9-wing one, because he's got that extremely slow pace. He just seems like he could be just his affect seems more 9 than 1 to me.
I'm thinking it could be like because of one of the fixes or something. He just feels a little bit too solid to me.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
good point.
That's a good distinction to make right there, is that when we type one wing 9s, they're easy to mistake for withdrawn types. Like they're so...
That's true.
They can be so icy and removed. Even as a fix, it's a very kind of like sharp, but even just like watching Alex's interview with Josh, like maybe it's self-pressed sexual, but like one wing 9 is pretty withdrawn.
So one wing 2 is also going to be working off of its own motives more than anything else.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Right? And where one wing 9 is going to be a bit more tapped into the collective to know what needs reforming. It's going to tap into like the collective issue to know what the problem is. Like everybody's sort of like collective consciousness is going to be a bit more tapped into. For some reason, the first thing that comes to mind, you guys have probably not seen this movie, but Bruce Almighty, where Morgan Freeman plays God. Morgan Freeman, I think, is a 1. Is a 1.
He's a 1. Yeah.
Is he 1 with a 9 wing? I think I
sure.
saw him actually.
Yeah, he is.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we have
perfect. Type as. Oh yeah, look at that, Martha Stewart. That's hysterical.
Where's she at? One wing 2.
One wing 9. Ayn Rand, one wing 9. That's a good example too.
Who?
What is?
Ayn Rand.
Oh,
for better
yeah.
or for worse.
Activist, libertarian. I think Hillary Clinton is a 3.
Well, we should do a class on that too.
Yeah.
Even though I would be fucking painful to do a whole class on that. Yeah, that would be a good one.
You guys absolutely need to do a class on that, which is my way of just trying to make you all suffer.
Yeah, well, we can do it because I think it would be one of those things where you would just to see like the gut typeness of her, it would have to be shown on video. Some of these things you just can't. You just have to see it in real time.
Yeah, I'm looking at this. It says Ayn Rand, Mahatma Gandhi, Morgan Freeman, Greta Thunberg. That's Greta Thunberg. Yoko Ono is another one where you guys do see that like pseudo space cadet thing. They're just like, I've been lost in space. I'm like kind of lost in the sauce, and now I'm back on Earth ready to fix it and be pissed about it.
Yeah. It's like that philosopher of the universe thing. One of the 9s are dipping into that.
But since it's a hexad, since it's hexad, it is separate, and that's the distance piece that I'm trying to get at with one with a 9. I've called it autistic, but people get offended when I use that word. I mean, I don't mean it literally, but it's that there's that quality that's quasi 5-ish, where it's like there's just this removed kind of feeling. There's a separation kind of thing.
You're talking about one wing 9?
One wing 9, because of the that kind of that abstract space that type is in, and because it's not 9 with a 1 attachment, it is hexad, so it's got this greater degree of disconnect from humanity in a certain way. It's like ivory tower, philosophizing.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Really good.
we just typed, or a couple weeks ago, we typed Marina Abramovic. And I think I could see why, John, you might have seen 5, because I feel like 1 Wing 9 energetically, because it's so withdrawn, sharp quality can feel, to some people like a withdrawn type. Like, so energetically, she came off like, oh, maybe there's some withdrawn stuff going on here, but it's just 1 Wing 9.
One of the things about 1 Wing 9, this is inspired by Mary, but like the need for rigidity and for structure and the rigidity and the need for order and things like that. From 1 Wing 9 comes from like a more mysterious internal place. Whereas 1 Wing 2, it's a little bit more like, I'm right and this is why. And
preaching.
Like,
and it's real world.
Yeah,
it's not abstract. Yeah.
And it's like implementable in a certain way.
That's it.
Like I think the 1 Wing 9 can have a kind of I'm struggling with the word of like, I want to say utopian, but not quite. But like I was struck by Alex's interview on Josh's pod, where he asked her about moments of perfection or something like that, or do you find perfection in the world? And she was like, my cat's paw in the sunlight or something like that.
Amazing.
And and Alexandra just started weeping. and and like that kind of a symbolic perfection.
There you go.
1 Wing 9, it's like a symbolic, it's like a moment perfection. It's not like a words are shitty, but it's like it's an idealistic out of the mess of the world kind of a vision, whereas I think 1 Wing 2 is like, I will go into the trenches of India and breastfeed each person.
There you go. Yeah.
The good or a really good distinction from what you're saying is I'm just realizing that 1 Wing 9 is double gut and 1 Wing 2 is pulling from the heart center. So there's more of a need to materialize or show what that ideal is in the outer world with the 2 Wing, and it feels like 1 Wing 9 can experience that moments of perfection or the ideal on their own or just by being. And so it doesn't have to be doesn't have to be materialized. I mean, because 2 gotta like materialize this
heart.
Offering. It has to be shown and it has to be mirrored in the heart.
And part of 1 Wing, part of the 2 in general is like doing my image. Like we associate that with 3, but 3 is both doing my image and also imagining my image to myself.
Yeah.
But 2 is like, I have to do my image. I have to act on my feeling. I have to act on my experience, my own identity. I have to, and so, with 1 Wing 2, there's an image component that's just not as present with 1 Wing 9. There's like a part of, I have to be or enact I have to represent my ideal self in my image, in my way of being in the world, and the way of moving.
I just remembered something because my experience with that certain 1 Wing 2, at the time we were doing a lot of, this was actually what gave birth to the whole collage exercise, was she was, her collage, she didn't want to put a collage together, so I helped her put her collage together, and I sent it off to David blind, asked him what he saw, and he basically read her mail. He didn't even know. I don't think he even knew who it was, but he was basically reading off type 1 and social blind. And so we just started exploring that, and that became what the collage, that's what started the whole collage exercise. But eventually she saw some of my collages, and she was very, very disturbed in the sense that, what kind of a person are you? Are you into these demonic or groups, or are you a goth person? Just trying to like, where does this fit? And I'm just like, I just like these images. Like, who cares? But she was, the implications of what those images meant about me as a human being, she didn't want to see it. So I thought that was interesting.
That gets to that point we made on one of the pods about if you are into somebody's collages, you might be into them, and if you're not, then you're not.
Who's going to be into my collages?
Yeah, nobody. So.
Nobody at all.
So sorry about your luck.
You're cursed. Forget it. Yeah, that's it. Hang it up.
Oh man.
This is maybe a different way of saying what's already been said, but another way to distinguish the 9-wing and the 2-wing is a 1-wing 9 is going to be, more utopian, more global, more universal, a lot more like the wideness, I think, is a lot more wide for 1-wing 9, whereas, and there's like a withdrawn, there's like double positive, but there's also like withdrawn versus compliant, because I see compliant as like having to contend with other, at like mandatorily having to contend with like other. So I see it as like the offering for 1-wing 9 is more global and universal, and the offering for 1-wing 2 is a lot more personal. Kind of like, John, what you said, that 1-wing 2 is going to go to India and breastfeed everyone themselves.
Yeah, I think on that, it's a much more specific agenda.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
I mean, I know I keep mentioning my one friend, but she's an opera singer and a communist organizer, and it's like this transnational changing the world kind of a deal. But and you can obviously be communist and be 1-wing 2, but it's like, I think that the 1-wing 2 will take more of a specific project on. It'll be like, again, it's like some kind of concrete realization of my image and my idealism, like that what we started with, that physical resonance, combined with the heart, combined with the image, and having to have a like singular, specific double hexad project.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to mention about like all the rejection types that we're going to talk about this soon is just like sort of seeing my personality as aligned or contacting other people through these lever points. And so there's a very specificity to identifying what a lever point is in any sort of process. It's like this thing has the capacity to change the dynamic. There's like a before and after to it. And so any of the rejection types might latch onto what they might deem as a lever point. And so like a 1-wing 2 might say that, like Bernie Sanders, what's his like flagship issue?
Universal healthcare.
So it's like that is that's going to change everything. Sort of a lever point. It seems like 2 or 1-wing 2s, the 2 adds that rejection specificity or leverage point orientation. My ex, who is saying like we need to reform fashion materials and the ethical fashion, and that has the capacity to change the industry. Or if you apply something like that completely changes the way that you make clothing. And so it seems like all the rejection types are recognizing, looking at anything that they're doing and only recognizing what has that capacity to penetrate a process and have a disproportionate effect, which is what another way of saying like finding a leverage point in a process.
Yeah, my understanding of why Bernie is all on healthcare specifically, like a lot of issues, but specifically healthcare, is because not only is it just like, insane that we don't have universal healthcare, just in general, given being a developed nation, all that kind of stuff, but also it's like the way health insurance currently works is one of the prime ways that bosses have power over workers. And so that if you're able to take that power away from workers, away from employers and owners and capitalists into workers' hands, like that changes the dynamic, and that is also a platform to build other kinds of means of like restoring like different faith in that not everything has to be privatized, and could be back in democratic control of workers and stuff like that. So it's like, yeah, that's really interesting, because that one obsessive point has all these other implications. Not that 1-wing 9 couldn't think in those terms, but that healthcare.
Right.
Yeah. More of a one note, in other words.
Right.
Rejection.
Yeah.
Whereas like Jordan Peterson is about, I don't know, the the divine chaotic feminine.
It's just blowtorch kind of oneness, and they have like a flagship issue that if we fix this is going to turn everything around, or it's going to make a monumental shift. And I see that as a rejection perspective.
Clean your fucking room.
Yeah, clean your room.
Clean the room.
Wash your dick.
Rules for life.
Scrub it raw.
Jesus Christ.
It's funny that we have far less experiences with 1, and 2s are pretty rare, but we all have some pretty overt experiences with 2s.
That's true.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I was thinking about that too. That I personally have more experience with 5s than I do with 1.
Yeah, the rejection types are the ones that leave their mark on you.
Yeah.
You don't forget them. You don't forget them easily.
Okay.
We're the most special.
No, I think that's a good point. I think I know more 4s and 5s than I know 1s.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that's right for me too, yeah.
Should we go into like
the new king of the rare type could be the 1.
It could be.
Yeah.
Actually.
What were you going to say, Alexandra?
Oh, I don't know.
Do you remember what you were going to say?
Yeah.
9 on 9 violence.
Just floated.
I know, David. That was rude.
I'm going to continue to be rude.
I was gonna say if it would be worth it to go into like 1 gone wrong, like evil 1, or just like blind 1, because 1 being a body type means that dissociation like is a thing that it does. You know, and like we've had experiences with certain ones where they clearly don't know what they're talking about, but they just blindly go into like a superego, like morality finger pointing thing.
Yep.
That it's just like body dissociation through frustration. You know, so it's this thing of like, okay, that stance doesn't actually have much integrity, but that's just like all you have to use. Is that making any sense? I feel like it makes spelled out very well.
No, it makes a lot of sense because it underlines this idea that 1s don't know what they're doing. Like it's not, even though it's a body competency type, sometimes people assign so much. Oh, 1s are these
wise or something.
Yeah, like they
all-knowing.
Yeah, it's not really showing how 1s can be blindly attached to or just stand on some super ego moralistic push that has no grounding on anything that's actually happening. We've run into that with some
or just blindly led. Yeah, we've seen it with 1 fixers too. Like I think something to talk about either in this episode or another one is how 1 kind of has the reputation for being like the person you go to for advice and the person that cannot do wrong and the person that will always lead with integrity. And we've seen so many times,
Amber Heard,
not just with 1 cores, but especially with 1 fixers, that it means nothing necessarily.
Another way to angle on this is, I might have said it before, just that all the gut types, even 9s, are having some underlying sense in their body of certainty or knowing.
Yeah,
so that's part of what we're speaking to, is that 1s are, you're experiencing certainty in the body, and so then you just blowtorch whatever your mission is out at people, you know?
Yeah.
And you're not questioning it because it's flush through your body that you're right.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So, speaking of our boy Jordan Peterson,
yes,
you know, like he was getting real popular real fast, and I just like something about him just like was off to me like immediately, and you know, he's talking about like cultural Marxism, which is just like a is a reappropriation of Nazi cultural Bolshevikism, which is like the idea that the Jews were undermining German society through some kind of weird, skewed understanding of Marxism and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so, like, Jordan Peterson, like, his archetypal stuff is pretty interesting, but then his, like, political stuff is, like, fucking batty. And he always talks about cultural Marxists and postmodernists and all this shit. and it's all like really empty and shallow shit. And then he got into a debate with Slavoj Žižek, who's a 5.
Oh yeah, destroyed.
And yeah, it was hilarious because it was watching this gut certainty that has no head center involved. Like, even though Jordan Peterson is, like, in my opinion, like a very smart person. Like, he's very smart. I think he's got all the dumb fucking ideas, but he's like very intelligent.
Sure.
And to watch how Zizek just being pure head center, where he was like, "So where are these cultural Marxists?" You know, just and asking actually in a very genuine way. Like, not even antagonistic, and Jordan Peterson couldn't name shit. And it was just like even Zizek seemed to feel bad for him in the debate. Like, he kind of made it light and deflected or whatever. I mean, it was really weird, but it was watching this guy who's made this career out of this, like, condemnation of all these different people that he didn't have any basis for. You know, it was like, as soon as he got to the head center, it all dissipated.
That's a good thing to talk about too, is that like body type without a developed head center is still just like dumb body type.
Oh yeah,
that's right. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Just dumb lumpy creatures.
I mean, it's not to discount the intelligence of the gut center.
No,
but
totally.
It's not,
yeah, but the articulation doesn't come from the gut. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not it's a completely different type of intelligence from what it means to reason in the head center and to actually, because you know, with these typing, just like, you know, like, let's say like this 10,000 hour rule where you get into something and you learn it and you're learning it on so many different senses and so many different centers that having to explain something that you know, quote unquote, know is difficult. So with typings, is like, I've maybe watched so many videos of sixes that are things about sixes that I've picked up that are really hard to explain, that are become like body impressions. And so a lot of the work that we do with DAA is like finding the right words and the right reasoning to explain something that's a gut impression. So it's not to discount the intelligence, but it can feel dumb in the sense that it's wordless. It's not something that's true.
Yeah, another thing about that though is like, you know, I see all too often is a non-body type, is the one non-body type here, how it's like their body machine gets some kind of conviction or like hiccup or like something in the processing, and it's like they're like, no, it's still right. And so their thinking and perceiving just goes around that like lump, like it's like having like a bed and like sheets, but then there's like a rock in between some of the like the blankets somewhere.
Oh yeah,
and it's like the body, the you know, the body type will still be like, no, there's nothing there. You know,
I mean, that's exactly what's happening in this 9-4 thing. The nines that start arguing about being a 4. It's that sense of certainty in your body.
But it's interesting how I'll notice like body types deal with uncertainty by going to certainty, where I'll see like a gap open up where the head center ought to go in, and it's like, you know, to turn something around, to investigate, to, you know, all that shit, and it's like, nah, this is it.
Yep.
Well, the other thing to look at least from my point of view, is having to learn to have flexible certainty, and so because it's sort of like the guts thing is, okay, I feel something and everything I feel feels certain, but to know that certainty is probably incorrect or incomplete, and so that certainty has to be movable. So, you know, when we, you know, I'm sure David can attest to this, is like getting better at typing is learning to adjust your position even though it feels certain, and realizing how often you get it wrong. And so you have to kind of flow with, all right, I feel this and it feels certain, but I have to be ready to drop it for something that feels more certain.
Yeah, that was truly like a self-development thing, probably, that we both experienced with working with Joseph, and doing this as a team is just because most everybody is going to start with, you know, well, just wanting to be right. I mean, it's a basic human thing, but then gut types are terrible about all of that whole thing. So yeah, just being able to finding it, it's kind of, I think of it as finding it in my body, the capacity to have some, I don't know, what is it, flexibility there, and realize you've got to question things and not clasp onto things too tightly.
And the style of learning is you learning by realizing that you get certain, but then you learn that your certainty was wrong. And eventually, if you iterate that like thousands of times, you start to develop a more nuanced sense of what that certainty is, so that if you stay in a certain space or endeavor or whatever long enough, that gut intelligence does improve dramatically.
True.
So it's something that gut types lead with certainty, but without the experience and without the reps, it's really likely wrong. But if you get enough experience in a certain space, it can be really fast intuition that comes about. All of that just to say that we're still the best, just to let you know.
Well, it's about like knowing how to use the centers the right way. It's like how what does the head do? What does the body do? What does the heart do? And because the issue is that any center just like overdoes itself way too fucking much, and so it's like ones are often right about something. They're often right that something's either wrong or unfair or fucked up or whatever. Or there's a sliver of, like, they might justify some terrible shit, but there's a sliver in there that, like, could, that they've just expanded upon excessively. It's like they've blown it up. And so that's the problem, that one represents of that body-centered certainty, because it's like, it's not just, you get even more right about being certain. It's like doubling down on the body gets it right, the body gets it right. Like the body has its role to play, but one really kind of exemplifies that issue, that, if I keep getting it right, then I'll keep getting it more right, and it's, and it's like some kind of lump or roll in the machine gets lodged in there. And sometimes it can be a matter of like honing in more specifically on the cues, but then other times, in the case of one specifically, it's like taking in a whole different center to approach a problem instead of bodying.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we hit this pretty well. Yeah. With these pain piggies, a little bit of food until we we make them suffer for a little bit longer until the next one.
Yeah, I think we found it too. I was worried going into this. I was like, I don't know what we're going to say here, but I think we got it.
We're amazing. Everything we do is amazing.
We know everything.
And back to Sagittarius. Okay.
I'm certain of it.
Yeah, John just like subtly roasting all the gut types on this podcast episode.
I'm coming out with it, baby.
It doesn't work. We're still kings.
Yeah, we still know.
We know we're right.
Gut is king. Watch the throne.
It's immovable mountains you're talking about.
Good luck.
Oh, God. I'm going to get made fun of so hard once we get off this call.
Yes.
You're going to get squeezed.
So we going to the heart center next time we do this?
Yeah.
Sure.
Two-town.
Yeah. We've got a lot of experiences.
Yeah, I've got a lot to say about Two-town.
All right.
All right, guys.
There you go.
Bye.
Okay.